In August 2022, Robert and Marilyn Jones boarded a cruise ship for what should have been a relaxing vacation. 2 days later, Robert was dead. It's something no one expects to happen on a holiday, yet it's a situation every cruise line has to be ready for. And if you are distant from your country, in the middle of the sea, in a giant metal floating vessel, all that can certainly reduce your options. But wait, what if it's not an accident? What if it was a crime? What if it's not just you who found a dead body? 2, 5, 10, 50 dead bodies? Does a ship even have a morgue to keep all these bodies? Or is the sea the best option? What do you do when someone dies at sea? Every episode on this channel takes days to produce, from research and scripting to storyboarding, animation, and even voiceover. And it's all made possible by our Patreon crew. We've just revamped our Patreon and we've prepared a lot more to share with you. As a deckhand, you'll get early ad-free access to new videos, be able to vote on upcoming video topics, grab exclusive wallpapers for your phone and PC, and see your name on our supporters wall at the end of every new video. If you'd like a closer look behind the scenes, the officer tier gives you time lapses of our team working hard on brand new animations or thumbnails. You'll also get behind the scenes updates, animatic releases, and a monthly newsletter filled with maritime stories and news that we don't cover on the channel. And for those who really want to take the helm, our captain tier lets you sail your very own custom designed ship in the casual navigation art style, featured in a future episode for everyone to see. You'll also get your name in the end credits as a captain supporter, with video shoutouts and private Q&A sessions on Discord. However you choose to support, or even if you're just here watching, it truly means a lot. You'll find the Patreon link down below. Thank you for keeping casual navigation afloat. Death at sea becomes a logistical emergency as soon as someone notifies the crew. For the body, the decomposition clock starts ticking the moment it happens. And we know that every ship is different, but as soon as protocol begins, it's a quiet coordination without alarms, known as Operation Rising Star. A well-rehearsed chain of events where onboard medics confirm the absence of life by checking pulse, breath, and pupil dilation. The captain is informed and the paperwork begins, while the vacation continues. The process is designed to minimize disruption, not just out of courtesy, but to keep order. And it is true nowadays most deaths at sea are natural. But when suspicion enters the picture, an unexplained injury, a missing passenger, or signs of violence, the protocols change. And at sea, it's not as simple as calling the police. However, if someone is suspected in a death, they may be held in the ship's brig, a detention room on board for misbehaving passengers. If it's a suspected murder, the ship is now a crime scene. And now, trained security officers act fast, sealing off the area, reviewing cameras, quietly interviewing witnesses. Everything, from cabin logs to meal records, is preserved. Because what happens on board may one day be replayed in a courtroom. The body is left undisturbed until authorities can inspect it. Because once docked, the ship falls under the jurisdiction of the local port state. And if the case is serious enough, international investigators may step in. Out at sea, the rules follow the flag, the country the ship is registered in. A Bahamas ship may be sailing through the Mediterranean, carrying American passengers with a European crew. But legally, it's still under Bahamian law. To be honest, even for sailors, this can be very confusing sometimes. Even the FBI admits it. The criminal jurisdiction of cruise ships is inherently complicated. This whole morbid process is easier to deal with when there's an actual dedicated team or corporate support staff. But in a cargo vessel, there's none. Usually the captain makes notes of all events, the crew do all they can, and everyone just waits, hoping that it was just a tragic death and there's no murderer locked with them in the middle of the sea. And on military vessels, the procedure becomes part of a classified system. The event is logged, but what happens next may depend on mission, location, or political sensitivity. During wars, dead bodies were usually buried at sea. In peacetime, the body could be airlifted and taken home. If it was in the age of sail, on merchantmen or whalers, death often meant burial at sea. The body would have been wrapped in a shroud, weighted, and dropped after saying some solemn words. Sailors used to be more superstitious, and these burials carried their own share of beliefs. Many thought seabirds carried the souls of the departed, which made it deeply unlucky to ever harm one. A weird custom, but let us know in the comments below your own stories. But what about today? Modern maritime law has little room for burials at sea, especially on commercial or passenger vessels. Regulations, insurance demands, and cultural expectations all point in the same direction: preserve the remains and bring them home. And that brings us back to our cruise ship with the old man dead on board. And we're nowhere near the port. So where the heck do you place the body? Well, there's usually a purpose-built morgue. Yes, an actual morgue. Small, refrigerated room hidden deep below the deck. Designed to hold only a handful of remains. Of course, no one expects to have hundreds of dead bodies on board. But what if there was a virus killing people? In this case, there is a multi-step response, which involves immediate reporting, medical isolation, and procedures within the vessel sanitation program, or VSP. We're not going in depth on that just yet. We'll save that for a future video. For cargo ships, trawlers, and offshore rigs, there's no morgue or cold room waiting, and when the death comes suddenly at sea, improvisation becomes a necessity. The body is wrapped in a shroud or body bag, sealed tight and placed in the coldest part of the ship, often a walk-in freezer meant for food. We know that's not ideal, but at sea, it's the only way to slow the clock of decomposition. Crews may shift supplies, carve out space where there is none, and do their best to keep the remains apart, respectful and secure. On smaller vessels or even lifeboats, or in other extreme conditions, even that option vanishes. The only choice becomes preservation by isolation, sealing the body in waterproof layers, tucking it into a protected space, and pushing toward port as fast as possible. Once preserved, the next challenge is getting home. If the ship is still far from its final destination, the body is usually offloaded at the next major port. International offloading means the remains may rest in a port city morgue until paperwork clears. If the deceased had travel insurance, most of the burden falls on the insurer, covering documentation, transport, and costs. Without it, the family can be left facing bills that climb shockingly high. And sometimes, repatriation isn't possible. In those cases, families may choose a local burial in the port city, or cremation, with ashes sent home in an urn. Others decide to let the voyage continue, symbolically together, completing the journey the person once began. This totally depends on what the family wants. The dead seem to be taken care of, but what about the living? The bird that now has to fly with only one wing. Cruise lines often assign members of a care team to grieving families. They handle the calls, they arrange transport, they sit with the family, and when needed, they guide them off the ship, help them into a hotel, or simply remind them to breathe. This isn't just theory, it happened. Remember the Jones couple at the beginning? The ship offered two choices. First, disembark at the next port, which was Puerto Rico. Or second, to keep the body on board in the morgue until returning to Florida. Mary chose to stay with the body on board. In the end, there was a lawsuit filed. Not because the death was a suspected murder. In fact, the cause of death was a heart attack. But the cruise was sued because the body was discovered to have undergone some decomposition. The body was put in a freezer used for drinks and ice carvings instead of the morgue. Yeah, at sea, the events do not always play out as it is in the books or follow any laws. Mistakes are made and make a bad situation become much worse. The family claimed they couldn't have an open casket burial, which is an old family tradition for them. It's never really simple. But whether it's Operation Rising Star on a cruise liner or a cargo captain making calls he never trained for, the goal is always the same. Preserve dignity, follow protocol, and bring them home.